I've been excited for the release of Oil War for Team Yankee, and Alex at Battlefront has kindly sent me one of the new box sets to have a look at. This is Kahalani's Warriors, the Israeli forces starter box set for Oil War. The box set is named for Avigdor Kahalani, who commanded the Israeli 77th Armoured Battalion against Syrian attack in 1973. Holding the line on the Golan Heights was one of the turning points in the war, and the valley littered with wrecks from both sides was renamed the Valley of Tears. If we look at the back of the box, it contains 3 plastic Merkava tanks, 2 plastic AH-1 Viper attack helicopters, 2 decal sheets, 1 commander sprue, 7 unit cards and 1 Team Yankee mini rulebook. There are full-size pictures of the completed kits. Let's look at the plastic. I'm going to start with the Merkava. I've been eagerly awaiting the release of this kit since Oil War was announced. Each Merkava kit comes with 2 sprues moulded in dark grey plastic. This first sprue has the upper and lower turret pieces, upper and lower hull and the main armament, as well as the machine guns and turret side parts for the Mark I Merkava. If we look closely at the turret, you can see the detail here. Hatches are well outlined and there's plenty of good hinge and latch detail. Relief on these parts is strong and sharp, the sort of excellent moulding we've come to expect from Battlefront's plastic kits. The same strong detail is seen on the upper hull too. The moulding here catches the complex shape of the engine deck and has good vent detail. Unfortunately, there looks to be some minor short shot or plastic shrinkage around the 2 rearmost side sprue gates. This makes for slight indentations in the hatches here. Nothing major, but something to watch out for. The Merkava has 7.62mm machine guns at the commander's and loader's positions, and a 50 cal over the main gun. In a departure from normal Battlefront plastics, there's no extra machine guns here, so be careful cutting these from the sprue. If you break one, there are no spares. The main gun is a single piece. It has a thermal sleeve and you can see the reflector mirror for the muzzle reference system on the end of the barrel. The next sprue is the tracks, side skirts and the turret side pieces for the Merkava Mark II. The tracks are one-piece parts with some interesting suspension detail. The Merkava suspension used vertical double coil springs developed from the Centurion. Unfortunately, the nice spring detail moulded here will be hidden when the side skirts are in place. The first road wheel is a T55 pattern wheel, while the others are Centurion pattern. This is a nice detail to include. Speaking of side skirts, here they are. These are moulded integral to the hull side pieces. This is a great engineering choice in the kit design here, meaning these should be easy to glue onto the kit and should stay in place during handling. Again, it's little details like this that highlight Battlefront's experience in creating plastic wargaming kits. The raised dot detail on the side skirts is for the Mark II. The Merkava Mark I side skirts were the same shape but smooth. Anyone who cares enough can carve these off and sand these parts down for the Mark I. These are the add-on armour panels for the Mark II turret. These bolt-on panels increase the armour protection, and you can see the chain and ball anti-RPG protection added under the rear stowage rack. These detonated incoming RPG rounds before they hit the rear turret bustle, a bit of a shot trap identified in the original design. Here's the finished kit. It looks fantastic. The shape of this unique vehicle has really been captured here. There was a little bit of sanding required in places to avoid gaps. The locating pins under the front hull can cause a minor gap without a couple of strokes with sandpaper, and some pressure while the glue dries. Similarly, the lower part of the turret needs a little filing to seat properly. The rear of the upper turret piece should snap down over the lip near the stowage rack floor on the lower piece. You'll feel it when it snaps into place properly. I've built this one as a Merkava Mark II. It has the added turret side armour and the anti-RPG ball and chains on the turret stowage rack. Again, this kit is well engineered and easy to assemble. The sort of kit we've generally now come to expect from Battlefront plastics. I can't wait to build the other 2 and get them on the table. Speaking of on the table, the box set has 4 Merkava Team Yankee unit cards. There are HQ and platoon cards for fielding both the Merkava 1 and 2. We'll look at these in more detail later. There are 2 decal sheets, one for the tanks and one for the helicopters. 6 tank commander figures are included. These are soft plastic figures. This is the plastic for the AH-1 Viper helicopters. Each chopper comes on a single sprue of green plastic. This is the same plastic as the American Cobra, so just a quick look here. The loadout in the instructions for the Viper are unguided rocket pods on the inner pylons, tow launchers on the outer, and the long triple-barrel Gatling gun under the nose. The kit includes magnets and flight stands. There's one unit card for the helicopters, as well as a movement orders card and an Oil War Israeli formation card. The last item in the box is the Team Yankee mini rulebook. These are quite handy, although the new rule set is due out later this year, which will make this redundant. There was some slight foxing of the book by the sprues loose in the box. Given the assembly instructions come in a plastic bag big enough to contain the rulebook, this could have been easily avoided, but not a major issue. Let's look at some history. When Israel was formed in 1948, it had no military to speak of, and weapons needed to be scrounged or bought on the black market. Some of the first tanks used by Israel were wrecks salvaged from dumps, or surplus vehicles which were remilitarized. Many of these were Shermans. Israel eventually pushed Shermans to their very limit, re-engineering and rearming them to keep them viable. Later the IDF obtained new tanks like the Centurion from Great Britain and the M48 M60 series from the US. These formed the bulk of the IDF armoured force in the 1967 and 73 wars. However, political considerations often meant Israel couldn't depend on foreign suppliers for military equipment, and work began on designing and building an indigenous main battle tank. Named the Merkava or Chariot, the new tank was accepted into service in 1979. It borrowed from existing designs like the double coil spring suspension system from Centurion, but it also drew on lessons from the 1973 war. Israel knew it would always fight outnumbered and put an emphasis on crew protection. As well as thick and well-sloped armour, the engine was placed forward of the fighting compartment, meaning a hit was less likely to cause casualties. A large rear hatch gave overhead protection during resupply, and a hasty exit if the tank was hit. There was also just enough space to evacuate the crew of a stricken tank under armour. The Merkava Mark II added extra armour to the turret and added a ball and chain netting system to defeat RPG rounds. Merkava initially mounted the M68 105mm gun, the same gun as their Centurion and M60. The Mark III upgraded this to a locally designed 120mm gun. Later Marks added modular composite armour and upgraded the fire control and optics. The Mark IV supplements the armour with the Trophy Active Protection System, which uses explosives to intercept missiles, rockets and heat rounds. The Merkava chassis has also been developed into a heavily protected armoured fighting vehicle. This is only fielded in limited numbers to date. Let's look at the Merkava in Team Yankee. Here's the Merkava II tank platoon card. It gets BDD armour, upgraded from bazooka skirts for the Mark I. Night fighting is infrared, the same for both variants. Crew stats are strong with 3+ for courage, skill and morale. Remount is 2+, so they shouldn't stay bailed out for long unless you roll like I do. Assault is 4+ with a 3+ counterattack. These all make for a strong, aggressive unit. Merkava's a hit on 4+, and the front armour is 19, side 7 and top armour 2. The front and side are both a 1-point increase from the Mark I. Good numbers, but not invulnerable. Best to not get flanked or surrounded. But the BDD rule does mean side armour is 13 against heat rounds like RPGs. Tactical move is 10 inches or 25 centimetres. The main gun stabiliser means Merkava can move 14 inches tactically and fire with a +1 penalty to hit. The M68 105mm main gun can fire 40 inches or 100 centimetres, with a moving and halted rate of fire of 2. Maintaining the rate of fire while moving means you can keep Merkava on the move during play. Anti-tank is 19 with a 2+ firepower. Having the same gun as Centurion and the M60 means Merkava doesn't have the hitting power of 120mm armed tanks like Leopard 2. But it's okay with at least a chance against most likely opponents. The gun is brutal, so infantry and unarmoured tank teams will be re-rolling saves. Laser rangefinder eliminates the penalty for targets over 16 inches. Smoke is a nice option. You can blind an opponent if that's tactically useful. The 50 caliber MG gets the anti-helicopter rule, otherwise the MGs are pretty standard. Merkava 2 platoons are 2 or 3 tanks, at 14 and 21 points respectively. That's 7 points per tank. Platoons of just 2 or 3 means these can be a bit fragile, so watch out for losses. Merkava 1s cost out at 6 points each. Companies can take a 1 or 2 tank HQ, 2 to 3 tank platoons, and can include an M113 mech infantry platoon and either an M113 or Jeep Recce platoon. So how does that work with the box set? You can't field a valid formation just from the set. However, I plan to add a 5 tank Merkava box to this, which will give me a 2 tank HQ and 2 full platoons. If I add an M113 mech infantry platoon, Recce Jeeps and use the Vipers in support, that should be a good force. Maybe just needing some mortars or artillery added to the mix. I'll also be looking for any excuse to add the Perret non-line of sight anti-tank missiles to my list. So that's the Kahalani Warriors box set for Oil War. The plastic is great. I particularly love the new Merkava kit. Despite a couple of minor fit issues with the turret, it's a lot of fun to build and looks fantastic. It's a great starter, and though it will not field a valid force out of the box, it works well with additional unit boxes to give you the right number of tanks for a HQ and 2 full platoons. If you're looking to build an Israeli force for Team Yankee, this starter set is excellent value. I'm keen to try out my Merkavas on the table sometime soon. Thanks again to Alex at Battlefront for organising this review copy. Support from manufacturers helps this channel offer a wider range of reviews than I could manage with my wallet alone.